Hello and welcome to Frost Over the World. Today, in an exclusive interview, we're speaking to the man who ruled Pakistan for almost a decade. Former President Musharaf is with us here in the studio now. Later, we'll hear about the South African election and ask why it is that the Somali pirates appear to be so successful and untouchable. But first, it was a military coup in 1999 which brought General Musharaf, the head of the Pakistan army, to power. He remained in charge for almost 10 years, and during that time, Pakistan changed quite a lot. Most notably, perhaps, it became a focal point for the US war on terror declared after 9/11. President Musharaf fell from power in August last year when, in a rare, indeed what became a very rare show of unity, opposing political parties worked together to oust him. In the end, he resigned, and is here now. Thank you for being with us.
My pleasure.
Tell me, what are your feelings today as you look at the current state of your homeland, of Pakistan? I mean, what are your emotions as you see the situation now?
Very sad. I feel sad and despondent at whatever is happening because Pakistan is suffering.
Despondent and sad, yes. And do you think, with all the list of problems that there are at the moment, and food shortages and power shortages and turmoil with, and indeed the insurgents and the rise of extremism and all of these things in the economy, do you think if you'd still been there that you could have dealt with some of those successfully, or is it just an insoluble problem?
No, not at all. I think my experience of 9 years shows that the nation has a great potential and it has all the resources. It also has the acumen. The people are intelligent to understand what the problems are and resolving them. So it's not the problem of lack of understanding, of lack of resources or lack of potential. The people, unfortunately, the people have to have confidence in the government, and if that happens, I think the situation is recoverable.
It's recoverable, yeah.
Yes.
And what should the President or the Parliament do most? What's the most urgent task to deal with?
I think terrorism and extremism. That poses a danger to Pakistan and of course to the region and the world, but basically to Pakistan. That needs to be addressed. And the other is the economy, because I think if the economy is on a downturn and going down, nosediving downwards, then you can't address any other issue. You will be begging others. So these are two critical issues.
Yes. In terms of the security issue and so on, in your book, which was written basically in 2006, you said there, you estimated that there were probably 300 seasoned fighters from Al-Qaeda somewhere in Pakistan. What would the figure be like today?
I can't be, it'll just be a guess, but certainly they are more than 300. Initially these are Al-Qaeda, the same people who were holed up, the Mujahideen who were holed up since in those 79 to 89. We brought about 25 to 30,000 Mujahideen here. After 89, after the victory over the Soviets, they were not rehabilitated or resettled. So they remained there. Everyone left us and Pakistan had to fend for them. These were the people who became Al-Qaeda. So they were a lot. But then after the breakup of Soviet Union, a lot of Chechens and Uzbeks came in. So I think now, but then Pakistan acted, our forces, they were in our cities and in the mountains. They are no more in the cities, in the mountains, yes they are. Now how many are there, I wouldn't be able to give a figure, but certainly much more than 300-400.
Yeah. Is there a possibility that the insurgents and the militants and so on could win and overthrow the government of Pakistan?
I don't think so. I don't think so unless we keep blundering and giving them space. They are militant, they are aggressive, and the vast majority of Pakistan are moderate, but they get scared of people who are brandishing weapons and killing and slaughtering people. So if we loosen on the use of force, then we keep giving space to them, and that is how they keep getting encouraged and expanding. But as far as the control of the government is concerned, in the elections in 2007, 2008, the result was totally anti-religious parties. Religious parties who had about 17% of the seats in the 2002 elections got only about 3 or 4%. Even in the frontier province, where the religious party coalition ruled for 5 years, they were totally rejected and eliminated, and it was the ANP, which is a moderate party. They won the vote bank, even in Swat, where there is problem. So there is no way that they can win through an election and come into government in Pakistan.
And what about the situation like the sort of compromise that was worked out in the Swat Valley and so on, where they allowed some Sharia law again and so on, with the dangers of the various punishments for Sharia law and so on? From what you're saying, that's the wrong way to deal with militants.
Well, now when we are talking of Swat, yes, I said any compromise on a position of strength when you're dealing with them is the wrong way. We must deal politically, but from a position of strength. But when you talk of particularly of Swat and Sharia, there's a little bit of confusion in the understanding of the world. In Swat, it all started that the people were demanding speedy and cheap justice, Nizam-e-Adl, what they were saying, calling it Nizam-e-Adl, because Swat historically up to 1969 was a state under the Wali of Swat. Wali is like a Nawab in charge. They were dispensing justice very fast. In 69 it was absorbed into Pakistan, and here our legal system went with all its defects and shortcomings and delays. So the people's demand on fast, speedy justice always remained. Now, the deal now initially was on Nizam-e-Adl, that you give them speedy, Qazi court, speedy, cheap justice. Now to that extent it's good. But if that means that it will be out of the legal system of Pakistan, the high courts, the supreme courts, there is a legal system functioning in Pakistan. So whatever you do in Swat must be within that legal system, legal structure. If it is outside that legal structure, you cannot have it's a challenge to the writ of the government. And if the same people are demanding things beyond that, that their judgments will not be challengeable, and then they start adopting measures of punishing people for things that probably a moderate person would not think it is tolerable. So that becomes challenging to the writ of the government. So there is a bit of a confusion which the government must face boldly. Speedy, cheap justice must be ensured within the legal ambit of Pakistan and the Constitution of Pakistan. But denying the Constitution of Pakistan and bringing laws which are different from Pakistan must not be allowed.
And in the situation of the law and so on, tell me, do you feel safe when you're in Pakistan, safe from the revenge of your enemies, as it were? Two of your opponents or enemies or whatever, both Mr. Nawaz Sharif and Mr. Chowdhury, the Chief Justice, both of them you threw out, as it were. And do you think they'd both like revenge on you?
Well, Mr. Nawaz Sharif is all the time talking of it. But from legal, constitutional point of view,